Hi, Ray here, not that one. Well, today I thought we could have a look at my camper van built in 2000 and well, finished building in 2020. So in this video I'll show you around how I constructed it, what I've done, all the bits and pieces I've fitted into the van. So hopefully you'll find it interesting. If you're one of my regular viewers who's more used to me doing some of a canoe, this is a little bit of a stray off the path, but hopefully you'll find this equally as enjoyable. And yeah, and let's have a look. So what should we say? My favourite, if I'm in the area where there's any people watching to be done, this is my favourite people watching spot. I can just sit here, got a pretty good view, about 270-degree view, so that's pretty handy. But no, it's a lovely place to relax. Can slide the chairs forward and back, seesaw, obviously recline and do all the usual stuff. So yeah, so a bit of background. The van is it's a 2016 van. I bought it in 2019. That was an ex-Office Supplies van. It had done, I think, 43,000 miles. It was pretty much unmarked, which is quite unusual for a 3-year-old van. So I was very, very fortunate to find this van. And yeah, so I basically completely gutted it and turned it into what you see today. The process I started in, it was during the October of 2019. And then of course we went through the horrible lockdowny period, and I actually finished it was about the July of 2020, where I had planned a trip to France, but unfortunately the day I was due to leave, the government decided that it would be a bad idea for anybody to go to Europe, and effectively cancelling our insurance, as it were, so we couldn't go. So we ended up tripping around the UK, but that's how it goes. But yeah, so that's effectively the background on the van. So if you're familiar with vans or not, I will sort of try and just explain a few things as I go. These seats obviously aren't the standard seats, so I bought these from a UK company. These are, I think these are Monza seats, and yeah, these are really nice seats. They go up and down, forwards, backwards, recline. They've got armrests, they've got lumbar supports, and they are really, really comfortable. So when I'm travelling some pretty hefty distances, which I did 7,500 miles in Scandinavia last year, and yeah, and these seats are lovely. So this is a great spot, like I said, to spend the evenings. We've got a table here where I can sit at the table and have my food if I wish, have a drink if I wish, and whatever else. So again, nice spot. So let's see what else we've got in the front here. So it's a standard cab. Obviously, it's I think that's what they call a professional cab in the Peugeot range. Yeah, it's very nice. It's got everything that I need. I mean, it's aircon, all the driver controls, cruise control, and all the usual refinements, as they say. And yeah, I found it very good. It's got a nice little box on the top there which blasts cold air in when the air comes on, so that can keep things cool in there if you wish. Just while we're in here, I fitted these screens vents as well. These are Remis blinds, and yeah, I retrofitted these. To start with, I had the foil type ones that you stick on, but I found them a bit of a pain, so I fitted these, and we've got front ones we just fold across. So if you want some privacy of a night time, that's pretty easy to achieve with those. To be honest, a lot of the time I don't bother. I just like to have the air circulating around, and often I'll crack the windows open just if it's a cold night, just to stop any condensation. And that's what I do. So let's turn you around here now and see what else we can see in this section. So the first thing is I'm 5'9". So, you know, not tall, not short, but I can stand up in this section here. So you pretty much realise that there's normally this big bulkhead here. When you take the bulkhead out, there's a big like a parcel shelf, or you know, a storage area, which is accessible from the rear of the van. And yeah, I cut that all out so that I could just, you know, instead of having this shelf here, which you'd have to duck down to go under, I decided I was just going to cut that out and you know, create it as it is now. That did create a few awkward things, because this is the original headlining of the van, which normally comes obviously across here underneath that, and because I had no other alternatives, I couldn't make this out of any other material that I could think of. So I then used all the panelling from the van to create all these sections to basically blend in with the original headlining. And I've made some nice little pockets here where I can keep all bits and bobs. So we've got a little shelf here with, again, bits and bobs on, just to match that all in, which has worked out quite well. It was pretty fiddly, and finding fixings for everything. It's never, although there is metal in the van, a lot of it's only one skin, so obviously you can't fix into that, and you're relying on where the ribs are to, you know, to get a fixing. So you have to think about it in that regard. Vans are not the easiest place to set a camera up and so we can all see what's going on, but I can describe things from this angle, and I'll move the camera to the front, and some of the things I describe now you'll get a better view of when the camera's in a different position. So yeah, so from that point, this was the second thing, which was a bit tricky, because these are standard to the van, which normally would just butt up to the bulkhead. So I made all these panels again to fill in this gap. They've all got these rubber out at the edge, and these are all rubber trims which you can put on, and I also use some iron on as well. So that blends the whole thing together, and I've then raised the floor up to match the same floor level as a cab, so that when you are sitting here, you've got, you know, you can rest your feet down on the floor, and similarly when you're sitting in this dinette area, you know, for the same reason, you're down to your feet aren't dangling in the breeze. So when I constructed this panel here, I've got all the controls for the motorhome here. I bought the CBE kit, so I used their control panel here and the fittings underneath the seats, which we'll come to in due course. I've got a Truma boiler system, which is controlled from here. That's my gas tank, which these readouts virtually never work, but if and when it does work, it will show me how much gas I've got. Otherwise it's a guessing game, you just remember how much you've used. And a little Voltronic unit here. This was for my solar panel controller, but I've since changed from that make to another make, which we'll come to in a bit. So on the blingy side, I did put a really cool blue light behind there, LED light. Apart from moments like this, I never use it. Obviously, it's just one of those, when you're building things, so you get all these crazy ideas, and I thought that'd be really cool, which it is, but you never use it. so that's that. Yeah, so this is my first overhead unit, and this one is where I keep all my cooking bits and pieces. So I've got plates and mugs there, a selection of, you know, condiments and all the stuff I usually use when I'm cooking, in that cupboard there. And then below that, as you might expect, we've got kitchen sink and the 2-burner grill. Again, all fairly standard stuff, but it works, you know, it works really nice. So when I made this unit, I thought I'd make this tapered, which gives us more room here. Otherwise, you know, if it was carried on the same width, you'd have no space here at all. So, and again, that's not unique. I mean, lots of vans use that. But I did create all this at the back here. So this goes up to the former back of my cupboard. Obviously got the angle change here on the side of the van, but that does make a nice back to this unit. These are the units I fitted here, so I've got a 3-pin plug, a dual USB, and then they always come with this cigarette lighter thing, which is pretty much redundant, but yeah, that's how it is. And there's another unit on that side, the same as that, which I'll show in a minute. So in the cupboard unit, we have underneath the sink, it's fairly standard storage, cloths, dishwashing fluid, odds and sods, and everything else in between. Then we've got a nice little drawer there, cutlery drawer, again with all the usual suspects. There's a locker down here. That's quite big actually, so this will be housing all my food and kind of stuff very shortly, because the reason I'm doing this video is because I'm shortly about to take off to Scandinavia again, and I'm using these videos to infill whilst I'm away, so that, you know, there's still something appearing on my channel for hopefully my viewers to enjoy. Here we've got a Thetford oven, so it's quite a nice little oven actually. It's got a grill. It works really well. I have actually cooked a full Christmas dinner in there with all the trimmings. It was a bit of a challenge, but I did manage it. And then I got a deep drawer there, which has got all my pots and pans in. And here we have another cupboard. This is an overspill. It can be food in here, it can be drinks, it can be clothing, whatever we want in here. I have put a little rail there if I want to hang up any shirts or trousers, which I very rarely do, because most of the time I'm wearing comfortable climbing outdoorsy stuff. And then here I've got a fridge. So that's a 90 litre Thetford fridge. It's got the nice little ice box at the top there, and yeah, 3 shelves, 2 salad crispers, door pockets. Yeah, get a fair bit in here. I chose this because it's got the curved back, so you can fit it high up in the van, and it improved the space to how I wanted it to be. Probably with hindsight, I wouldn't fit one like this again. Never worked 100%. I mean, it's okay, but it does, regardless of what they say, it does consume a fair bit of power. So if you're constantly on the road while camping, which I often am, this will use quite a lot of power. If you've got the night setting and all the other settings, it still uses it, but I don't think there's something wrong with this fridge, which I didn't really appreciate until the warranty had run out. And you cannot maintain a constant temperature. You can have it set for it's like 4 or 5 degrees, and then the next day everything in there will be bloody frozen. So you alter it, and then the next day it'll be, you know, 10 or 15 degrees in there, and everything's getting ruined. So yeah, I'm not being impressed by that Thetford fridge at all. I have had it out a couple of times, and I've pulled it apart and I've checked everything as far as my abilities go. And the next step is to start throwing bits at it to see what will fix it. I've searched online and I can't find out much information of any faults with the symptoms that I've described. So I might have to give up and actually take it to somebody who can possibly do something with it. Bearing in mind these fridges are about twice the cost of a normal house fridge. It's bloody ridiculous, because these are they're crazy money. I think these are still at 800 or 900 quid. I mean, it was a ridiculous amount of money. But there we are. Right, so on this side, this is the dining area. So first of all, we've got a table here which the leg will fold up, and I can take the table off and move it away, which is, again, it's not unique to this van. This is my other unit here, so 3-pin USBs and cigarette lighter, the same as before. I've got these lights here which are 2-touch lights, so if you can see that one better. It's got a very nice background light there, and you press it again and you've got like a matte breathing light, which is, yeah, really quite nice. Great if you're sitting here and you want to read over night time, or whatever you want to do. It's nice to be able to see that. I have put a unit up here for TV, but I've never used it. I've never had a TV in here, and chances are I never will. The yeah, I mean the windows, there's no point going for them, they're just standard windows what everyone else has, but you know, they have got the blackout blinds and they have got the fly screens, and yeah, with double glazed and everything else. So yeah, nice windows. Sitting down there, which you can't see, I've got a little fire extinguisher, so it's just there, near and handy, behind the driver's seat, in the cab, just behind the cab. You can grab it with a second's notice, and if you need to, and you're away with it. So let's pop that back on there for a moment. So another locker there. So I typically just use this for mainly for books and paperwork and all manner of little bits and pieces. I've got glasses in there, tissues, various bits of electrical stuff, so it's just a nice space. But what you will notice is there's no ribs. You can't see any ribs up here because this van is fully insulated everywhere, walls, ceiling, floor. And you'll look at a lot of the vans, particularly the cheaper ones, and yeah, there's all ribs in here, there's no insulation at all, and that's okay. But if you use them winter time, a lot of people have trouble with condensation in the back of these cupboards, particularly the ones around the other end where you might have clothes and things in. It's pretty unpleasant. But I use this van in every month of the year, and yeah, but so that's why it's fully insulated. Up here I've got a little unit which is for my motorhome Wi-Fi, so it gives me 4G in the van and immediate area. Got a little security camera up there as well. No prizes for guessing what's in here. So this is my Thetford bench toilet, complete with shower, hand basin, a little cupboard up there for bathroom bits and bobs, skylight in there to vent it. So there's the Thetford toilet. Just checking. Oh yes, I have cleaned it. Oh, that's lucky. So down the bottom is the shower. Dual outlets, in the theory is, but you don't get any water left in it, but you do because it just gets left in this corner or that corner, which is sod's law. Little sink here. Nice little sink, just enough to have a little splash around on the wash. So there we've got the shower controls, and that hangs up there, and you just use it as a hand shower. And here's a little light that I fitted, so that's one press for on, press and hold, it will get dimmer, turn it off, press and hold, it will get brighter. So another one of those things that seemed like a really good idea at the time. Have to open that cupboard carefully because sometimes that stuff just wants to jump out and attack you. But yeah, so that's a nice little space. I've got a little shelf there as well, so if you are parked up on a campsite, you can stand stuff there as you can on here, but I don't make a habit of using campsites. So that's the small room, and then we come to the bedroom. So this is exactly what I wanted, which is I wanted a fixed double bed. I didn't want any, messing around, taking down tables and folding cushions and making beds. I just want to finish what I'm doing and just basically dive into bed, job done, get up in the morning and drive off. No messing around. So this is exactly what I wanted, which is what I've got. So it's a good height. As you can see, it's sort of top of the leg height, so that's it comfortable enough to get onto. And in the back I have wall to wall lockers all the way round and all the way down that side. So obviously these are used for clothes, so I've got this one here, and they go all the way to the very end. So they're huge lockers. I can get a ton of clothes in these, and the one at the end there is where I have all my towels and spare bedding and all that kind of good stuff. And this one is the same as the other. I've just got a blanket in it, and all always leave it fleecing there, I don't know why, but so we've got the same lights there as we had above the dinette. Because the van is 49 shades of grey, I thought it'd be nice to introduce a little bit of colour. So this is literally just a bit of fabric, and I just basically very crude, but it adds a little splash of colour on both sides. And up there is a little USB unit, so if you want to charge up something while you're in bed, you can. Yeah, this sort of like carpety stuff is actually really comfortable. That it's the stretchy kind of carpety material. Yeah, and the whole van is covered with that. It works really well. This bed, this was a mattress man bed, quite a thin one, but boy is this bed comfortable. It's much better than the one I've got in the house. And when you're lying in bed, you've got the skylight you can look out of, watch the stars or whatever else is happening outside. Quite nice. Got my little decorative roof panel which I made, just mainly to house the lights really, and I'll put that little triangle of fabric up there to again, yeah, take away from the grey. Also in the bedroom we have some rather cool lighting. Look at that. Perhaps not for the best night's sleep. I need to make sure I've got my blue light blocking glasses on before I go to bed, but you can dim them down to a glimmer. But anyway, possibly red might have been a better choice. But there we are. We live and die by our decisions. On the ceiling there's the perforated leather, which runs, you know, all the way down to the front there naturally. I do have a set of ridiculously bright roof lights. Hardly ever use them, but if you drop something small on the floor and I need to see with my aging eyes, they are pretty useful, but otherwise they don't get any use. And the other little light is just a little LED there to illuminate above the sink and burner, so that one's fixed, that's not adjustable in any way. And I think that is pretty much everything covered really on the inside, apart from the technical stuff. So I've got the Truma heater, so you can see there's a vent at the end there, and then there's another one here just underneath the dining table, and another one there at the end of the kitchen units. So they chunder out hot air and that's running, and there's also one underneath the sink. So, and that gets really warm in here, and because of the air vent at the top you can have the air circulating. Really good place for drying any damp clothes if you've been outside in the, you know, in the rain. So what else? There's all my little furry friends. You've got to have them in the van, haven't you? Right, under the seat there we have all the electrical controls that I started to describe earlier. So first thing you'll see there is there's an inverter. That is not wired up to the sockets, or you know, to the 3-pin sockets in the van. That's just there purely for me to use on, well, only a very few things I use it for. One is charging up my laptop and my electric toothbrush and shaver, and that's it. Everything else I've got is USB, so I don't need anything else at all. So that's there just for that purpose, or if there's anything else that I need to charge up, which I haven't discovered yet. So under here is some of the CBE kit I was talking about. So the unit on the left is all the 12-volt stuff with all the fuses in there. And that was actually quite a good kit to fit actually. I found that quite good. Beside it is the 240-volt section of it. So that's just got the breakers in there and the main switches for. There's very little 240 in here. It's mainly just those sockets and the chargers and stuff. That red isolator there is for the solar panels, just so I can isolate them if I ever had to do any work on the solar panels. So then we got the first of my Victron goods. Well, actually the second, because the inverter's Victron. So that's my smart charge controller for the solar panels. Works really well via an app on my phone. Yeah, well pleased with the Victron stuff. And beside it is my blue smart charger. So when I'm on hookup or short, as some people say, that charges all the batteries. Yeah, very quickly as well and efficiently, and will keep them in good storage. And then this unit here, which is my DC to DC charger. So all the time I'm driving the van, that will be charging the batteries. And it's 30 amp output, so it's pretty serious bit of kit that. But it does keep the batteries charged up, so if you're doing short journeys and it's quite often dark and you're using a lot of power, then yeah, that's the essential thing in my book. So the rest of that, there's ducting in there which goes to the various ducts that I've pointed out. I've got on off switches and various breakers in here, and then there's two batteries there. They're both AGM deep cycle, and they're both 115 amps each, so it's 230 amps there for batteries. And yeah, that's pretty much the long and the short of it really. Right, so when I built this van and did all this construction in what seems to be my typical fashion, I did it all in the yard beside the house. I haven't got a workshop or anything, so I did all this outside, and because I started in October, clearly a lot of it was all through the winter. So I was in here sometimes absolutely freezing. It's so cold. I had a heater going and trying to do all this work that I could, and then when the weather improved, obviously I had to do all of this panel came in 8x4 sheets, obviously. So all of these had to be cut, shaped, routed to have all these edges and beadings put on. Yeah, it was a colossal task, but I did dedicate myself to it exclusively. Pretty much, I think I did have a couple of weeks off at Christmas, but other than that I was out there every night, every weekend, till I completed it. And yeah, and it's turned out really well. I'm really chuffed with it. I feel for a home built van, it is, it's up there to hold its head up with the vans that you can buy off the peg, as it were. And I think for a lot of them I've seen, it's much better. It's certainly got a much higher specification. And I modelled this on a couple of high-end vans that I like the look of as my inspiration. And at that time, I probably regret now, but my idea was I was going to start a YouTube account, and I was going to put the full van build on YouTube. But really, due to several reasons, one of which time constraints, I didn't. So I did take a lot of pictures of the build, a hell of a lot of pictures of the build, which I have got, and obviously I know how I built it. So I'm not necessarily planning to start churning out campervan videos, but if anybody is interested in anything and they'd like me to add, I can add one or two photos of the build, or chat about something if anybody particularly wants to know anything who's considering building their own van. I'm more than happy to put something together if there's a demand for it. So otherwise I think I'll just do this one, and I'm going to do another video of the outside and all the bits what I bolt to the outside, and I should probably then leave it at that. I mean, the van will crop up. I suspect I'll be doing on my Scandinavian trip. Obviously I'll go be in this van for a month, so I'm sure it will appear from time to time, but I'm not planning on doing loads of campervan videos. So but that's that, unless somebody actually wants me to. But yeah, so I think that's it. So I think it's time that we went outside and have a look at what's going on out there, and then everything you've seen on the inside will perhaps make more sense.